What do you see around you?
I'm just adjusting to the body.
Mm-hmm.
That's better.
How are you feeling in the body?
Yes, it is good this time. A little bit itchy, but it's good.
That's good. Um, did you want us to start off with the questions?
I was remembering something.
Mm-hmm.
I was remembering something from before that. I was remembering it fondly. It was Apollo, and he was playing the lyre instrument,
Mm-hmm.
and he was sitting down, and I was sitting and listening to him play this instrument, and it put me at peace.
Mm-hmm.
I felt such peace when we were in nature, and excuse me, I'm just adjusting to the body.
Mm-hmm.
I felt such peace when I was with him, and I missed doing this kind of thing. I miss flying in the clouds,
Mm-hmm.
above the mountain. I miss all of this in this existence that I have now.
So
Even though,
which time was this that you could fly in? The last time you were here, or?
yes, we had levitation abilities.
Mm-hmm.
We could do this, and I very much enjoyed. I very much enjoyed flying around, and I could see myself wearing a cap on my head.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like strange kind of cap, but you can see this cap that I was wearing, this type of thing in the Sumerian pictures
Mm-hmm.
of the beings. You can see, well, maybe there is a picture that I'm thinking of, and it is an illustration or representation of Ishtar, which was actually my sister. But they represented us all the same, looking with these caps, because they got us confused sometimes, but we did have wearing these caps. This was just something that like a crown type of thing that we put on our head. It looks like a cone type of shape. I was laughing before because maybe I compare these caps that we used to wear to today. I was wondering how we could describe these
Mm,
caps that we would wear for our fashion on our head.
mhm,
And I was thinking of tacos, to put a taco on the head. It looked a little bit like a taco or
mhm.
something, or a cone like a party hat. Compared to today's, but it had some decorations on it. Looked like a party hat, like a happy birthday type of hat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
or
did
wizard hat.
yeah. And did these hats do anything special or it was just fashion?
They had some gold on them,
Mm-hmm.
and this will help with our energy fields and just to cleanse it and keep us healthy,
Mm-hmm.
keep our bodies, our physical forms that we manifested, just to balance them and to keep them healthy. We wore gold headbands or gold hats. Um, I'm seeing Toth. He is wearing gold hat for same reason, like a funny metal hat.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the origin of where you find the crown. So this was originally useful. It's a useful thing rather than just a status symbol, but down in history, it got passed down as a status symbol.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wearing my cone hat, my golden cone hat,
Mm-hmm.
and I was flying around
Yeah.
and seeing some mountains and beautiful clouds.
And could you sit on the clouds or would you fall straight through?
No, you fall through the clouds. You can fall through clouds, but it feels funny to go inside the clouds right and just seeing what will happen. Sometimes Apollo and I we went through the clouds and it was very wet and we were laughing.
And is it just the goddesses and gods that could do that, or did human have that ability as well?
Well, the Atlantis humans had this ability as well beforehand, and especially in the City of Light. But usually by this time, people didn't like to make such a fuss and be labeled a wizard or something. So they kept this ability to themselves. But we did this in nature when no one was looking too much. The earth was less populated, so we could fly around in certain places and not have people pointing and making a big fuss. But sometimes people saw it, and I'm seeing there was some people on the ground and some children, and they're like, "Wow, what's that?" You know, mm, something flying in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
and it was me and I don't think the time where I wear the golden hat, my taco hat, I'm just going to say it's my taco hat.
Mm-hmm.
So funny. Um, so when I was wearing this hat, I didn't get caught. I was just flying by myself. And the day that I was wearing my hat,
So the pictures of Ishtar, it shows her as with the hat but naked. Is that obviously?
Yes, this is something that they used to remember sometimes, because some Elohims, they did not like to wear clothes all of the time.
So,
So sometimes just wearing some jewelry. Sometimes I had to tell Apollo, you need to wear some clothes, because there are people who may be watching or come over or something.
mhm,
And so, especially when we came back to Earth, it was well, one of the times before when we came to Earth, we did not need to wear clothes, but this time we had to wear clothes, otherwise, because people are getting very shocked, but I guess not so shocked as today, because there was still some fishermen and different people who had to, be naked to do their job, or making wine or something.
mhm,
So it was uncommon to not wear clothes, but still it was not like you are getting arrested or something. It was just considered very impolite at this point.
mhm.
So I was worried if Apollo was being considered impolite. I tell him, you need to put some clothes on your willy or something. As can, he can't be doing this type
Mhm.
of thing. It's considered impolite at that point. And of course, if he did this today, he would get arrested very quickly. So,
Yeah, your
so
lowest.
sometimes,
Yeah,
no, sorry,
yeah, you
yeah,
can.
sometimes. mm, Sorry, continue.
I was gonna say your lower self has does these pictures after our sessions where she tries to illustrate what she sees in the sessions. Uh,
Yes,
so they usually a lot of them go on the sessions on the YouTube. And she has mentioned how some of them only have very little clothes on them, so that would be why, wouldn't it?
yes, yes. Well, she uses the AI to make some pictures, because she has to make so many depictions,
Mhm.
and it takes a long time to make pictures the traditional way. And also, I am feeding some light into the AI, so I am using this to be of assistance to do this type of thing.
Mhm. Yeah, so that's why she always sees it with a loincloth, because they didn't like wearing clothes very much.
Yes, yes, yes,
That would make sense. Yeah.
yes. Well, they were like a toga type of thing um around the waist,
Yeah.
like the skirt type of thing. That's what you saw Egyptian men wearing, this type of thing, and the jewelry,
Mhm.
but also the other clothing styles were dresses, like long robe type of dresses. And Apollo was wearing these dresses sometimes, and sometimes he preferred to wear more feminine things because it was rather flowing in
Mhm.
a sense. And sometimes he liked to wear the women's clothing as well, because, you know, he did not have to wear pants or something underneath. It was very flowing, these ones. And
Mhm.
he didn't mind this type of clothing, like he didn't have restrictions on him in regards to boys have to wear this clothing or that clothing.
Mhm.
Very much back then it was you could wear whatever type of clothing. It was very mixed. Like
Mhm.
sometimes women would have the chest out
Yeah.
in their clothing, and that was okay.
Mhm.
Um, y- you wouldn't get arrested for that back
Mhm.
then. But a lot of these styles were carried forward in places like Egypt and Greece and so forth.
Mhm.
So especially with the beaded dress that I used to wear, this type of clothing.
Mhm. So when did that restrictions come about where men had to wear certain things and women had to wear
Well,
different?
as the earth fell, it fell further into density,
Mm-hmm.
and as it fell further into density, the separation became more pronounced in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Are we going back to because nowadays everybody can wear, like, it doesn't matter if you're a male or female or how you identify, people are feel more free to wear whatever they want instead of being restricted
Yes,
to
yes,
their
yes.
bodies.
This is very much, very, very much so, where you can wear more adventurous clothing and the men can wear more feminine things, for example. And this is going more into that higher vibration where it doesn't really matter what you wear,
Mhm.
um, because it doesn't. We considered a lot of clothing like an art form as well. So it was more like a novelty for the Elohim because, you know, sometimes they were just used to wearing their birthday suit in previous time that they came to Earth. However, you know, this time they sometimes Apollo he complained because some days he did not want to wear clothing. It was like he was like a child in a sense. I was like, please put it on today. But I think he gradually learned to like these sorts of things. He found an art form in this. He found well that these clothing they could make some nice designs and look very nice on his body. So he
Mhm.
decided to take a liking to this and to other things that were on offer on at the earth at that time.
Mhm.
But also the Elohims in their light bodies, they like to wear very exciting clothing sometimes that is like more of like an wearable art form because they want to explore some new ways of doing things, you know, very much like on earth, you know. They
Mhm.
want to they want to explore an artistic form on the light body and looking at the light body in a different sense. So they make some modifications to the clothing or wearing light clothing, for example. There is such thing
Mhm.
in the higher realms that you know you can most of the time they are just wearing, you know, their light body and you don't need to wear any clothes. But sometimes for, I guess, for respect to people when visiting people in etheric or spirit form, they will wear some clothing to convey a message or to not frighten them or something, to not be rude or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And in this instance, when communicating with other beings, that is usually when clothing is used, and you can use it for art form or to convey a certain message or something like that. But at this time on the earth, we had physical, physicalized forms. They were higher vibrational, but they were not light bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, we had a light body as well as physical bodies because we can be anywhere in the universe. We can split ourselves into, I guess, different, like Archangel Michael, for example, he can be here and he can be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, something like this,
Yeah,
for example.
well, that would be handy for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, Now the picture that I'm looking at of Ishtar, they've got her with owl feet or like with bird's feet. Is that what was that?
This was just the decorative type of thing
Uh,
because they considered that maybe if she had wings, she had to be part bird or something.
mhm.
So they forgot that there can be beings that can fly, not necessarily with wings, but
Okay.
angelic beings, but they got this confused with birds in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Because she's got wings as well, and that
Yes, yes.
yeah.
Well, the wings of the being are more of a toroidal field.
Mm-hmm. And did she have a special? So she's got like an owl and some animals to her feet. Did she communicate with the animals as well?
Excuse me, I'm just settling into the form.
Or?
Well, all of the Elohims, they communicated with different animals. We
Mm-hmm.
could communicate telepathically with animals. So many of us had, I guess, animals that we were drawn to and liked to communicate with. For example, I had my elk being,
Mm-hmm.
the big elk, the giant elk. It was a prehistoric elk, and I could communicate telepathically with this being.
Mm-hmm.
And also Apollo could communicate with animals, and all of us could communicate in this way with animals. So they became associated with some different animals that I guess they were seen mingling with these animals in a sense, and we told them about how, I guess, in the classes, times when we were around people, we would tell them about the things that we were doing, like for example, oh, Apollo, he is going swimming with the dolphins sometimes, and then they remembered me with my big elk, for
Mm-hmm.
example, and then they remembered some other communications or stories about us and animals.
That's fair enough. So all these carvings that were done on stone are like the people remembering.
Yes, they just remember bits and pieces of things that have been, I guess, told from their grandparents and great grandparents and great great grandparents and ancestors, and they slowly gave them these stories over many many generations. So it was like a word of mouth, and this was written down and given to the next generation and the next generation. But over time, they forgot the original stories, and they forgot the reasons why they needed to remember the stories in the first place.
Mm-hmm. And what was the reason that they needed to remember? Just to.
Well, it was because of the cycles. It was because we told them about the cycles and various things that they needed to remember
Mm-hmm.
in order to know, well, I guess prepare for the time that we are in right now. And other things such as we helped them with various various things, like things that were needed for civilization, and we told them that they had to remember these things, that they couldn't let it go away like it did after the collapse of Atlantis. Like it went very downhill for a little while, even though that Egypt was kind of like the holding point, if you will, where this information was saved, but everything else was going downhill. So we had to remind them of these stories and things, I guess, and leave behind with them some ways that they could remember how to build civilization again and to do things once more and to evolve again rather than going down, 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 because we knew that there would be problems as the cycle swung further into darkness. We knew that they would forget so many things,
Mm-hmm.
and we knew that it would become very, very dark. And we knew that even perhaps that it would be a threat to the earth itself, which it was. And so we gave them the best preparation that we could, but in preparation for the cycles and what was going to come.
And where are we at the moment from your point of view, do you reckon?
We are at the end of the cycle
Mm-hmm.
and the beginning of the new one. Well, actually, we have already passed the turning point, and this was reached earlier in this century.
What was the turning point?
Where it was around the 2012 period, but also, do you know the harmonic convergence time? So this one really set things in motion this time, the harmonic convergence.
I've never heard of that one before, no.
So this was a planetary bodies that came into being in the 1980s. So many planets lined up at the one time, and this was like the signal, which is one of the signals for the end of the cycles, the end of that cycle, the
Mhm.
25,000 year cycle.
Okay. And the 2012 one, is that once we started this new phase, was it?
Yes, this was the official ending of that, the official ending of that cycle was at that time. So that was December of 2012 was the official ending of the cycle. But you know, it has like a wide point, and I guess you didn't see the changes, the rapid changes occurring until recently.
Is this what the
You can,
Mayans were trying to leave behind? Is that the
yes, yes, yes. This calendar was something that we helped them with to create.
Mhm. So I think everyone was confused that they thought that the end of the world was happening then. And it
Yeah.
didn't.
Well, actually, there was going to be, if the timelines didn't end up correctly, there was going to be an ending of this civilization.
Mhm.
However, that did not come to pass.
What made it change?
It was the children, the rising vibration of all of the children and star people coming to Earth at this time
Mhm.
to help this situation. This was the thing that created the new timeline. It was these people, including me. So the indigo children, the ones that you call of these types of things. However, you don't need to have labels on this. They are just simply of a higher vibration.
Mhm.
But these beings that came in, and they started to come in the 20th century, and then they continued coming in quicker and quicker, more and more coming in, and it created a tipping point.
What are the children that have been born in this timeline? Are they even higher than the indigo children that you mentioned just before?
Well, not necessarily, because you have to have some trailblazers there, and the
Mhm.
trailblazers have to be very, very experienced in order to, I guess, lift the vibration up to an adequate level. They have to be very experienced in their consciousness level in
Mhm.
order to lift such dense vibrations. These new ones that are coming, they are less, what would I say, warrior-like in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
They are more, I wouldn't say warrior-like, but they are more gentle. But the ones that had to prepare the way, they are gentle too, but they had to have a certain characteristics
Mm-hmm.
in order to, I guess, plow the snow, clear the way. Because if you are too gentle, you just want to give up if the vibration is too low.
Mm-hmm.
I am a bit more gentle than in these earlier souls that came in the 1950s and whatnot. So I came in later on because my vibration was too, I wouldn't say delicate, but it was not preferable to me. So
Mm-hmm.
yes, in a sense, there are higher vibrational ones incarnating right now that could not do it before. They could not do it before because the vibration was too low. They could not come in at all.
Mm-hmm.
So they are able to do so now. And more high vibrational beings can come, such as Elohims.
Mm-hmm.
And they could only come recently, Elohims. So like from the 90s onwards, this type of thing.
So the volunteers that Dolores spoke of in her work, they started coming in and plowing through the density. Is that?
Yes, I'm just seeing that like there was a lot of garbage, or imagine like a snow plow, a big snow plow, and there's a lot of snow that is covering the way. So
Mm-hmm.
they had to come in and plow all of these dense vibrations and well maybe like push it away and start to melt it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like clearing the ground for winter before spring is coming. So
Mm-hmm.
imagine that humanity was in a winter that was so cold and freezing that you need some help for spring to come.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to do that, you need some people with some snow plows or maybe some flamethrower, and they are maybe like melting the snow. They start to melt the snow, and then more of them come, and then they start to melt the snow. And sure enough, eventually you can see the green grass. It starts to grow again.
Mm-hmm.
And when the green grass starts to grow again and the flowers begin to start to grow and you get the first signs of spring, that is when all of the other waves that Dolores was talking about, that is when they were coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's still very cold at the beginning of spring. However, it's going to get warmer and warmer once we warm things up.
So was there a lot of volunteers? I think there's in one of her books, she said that there was a call out made for all the volunteers to come. Um, and a lot of them put their hand up to come and help humanity.
Yes, there was many people,
Mm-hmm.
many beings that came. Many beings came when they heard the earth screaming at different points.
Mm-hmm.
There was the scream that I talked about previously.
So what's the earliest volunteers that came from if they had a time frame?
Well, you are going into some serious history because there have always been volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that there was not volunteers on a scale like has been seen on this earth before,
Mm-hmm.
for example. Not for a very long time. And well, the last time I was a volunteer, I was not in a human body.
Mm-hmm.
So you could even say that's the extraterrestrial beings that came very long ago could be considered the volunteers because the earth at that point made a cry as well
Mm-hmm.
because of things that had happened in Atlantis. So we were aware and there was beings that were sent. It was like a smaller cry, somewhat,
Mm-hmm.
than what has occurred in today's time. However, has always been volunteers, always has been volunteers.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Are fears keeping humanity from moving forward with their evolution?
Oh, sorry, I'm just a little restless in the body today.
Mm-hmm.
The phone was ringing in the bedroom before. It was annoying to me,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's on silent.
Is it the what is it annoying about it? Is it the vibration or that it holds or
Yes, it's just distracting for the conscious mind because she was wondering what was going on.
mm-hmm. Oh, I
So
see.
I will just adjusting to the body a little bit more. Sorry about that interruption.
Okay.
It's just sometimes when the conscious mind is distracted by electronic devices, this can be a distraction for me.
Mm-hmm.
So the fears to do with humanity. This is this is the programming that has been in place for a very, very long time,
Mm-hmm.
since the Atlantis times and beforehand. So there was a time when the earth was very, very beautiful, and I have spoken about this before. But there was some contamination with the earth that came sometime a little while after we left from our holiday. There was um there was a contamination. There was First of all there was a meteor that came to the earth and introduced a different energy.
Did it introduce bacteria or what kind of energy?
Well, it introduced bacteria, but also like an energy. And I'm going to call this, and this may be new information for people, but there was a being that came in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing it used this event to enter into the earth, this being.
Mm-hmm.
And this being was, people might know this as the serpent. It was a serpent type of being.
Is it the serpent in Adam and Eve story or?
Yes, well, this is a reference to this. Okay, this story was like a bit mixed up in certain ways and taken literally, but it was originally a story that was about the times on Earth very long ago, when everything was, when Earth, the being that you know as Gaia, she was in a paradise state of being. So she was very high vibrational.
Mm-hmm.
And what you talk about with angels coming to Earth and interbreeding with the people, well, this was, I guess, the Elohim on their holiday and other angelic beings that visited during this time, and some of them did mingle with the people. Some of them chose to do so. Not all of them, but some of them. It didn't mean that they were bad or anything like that. There is no judgment on these beings, because I know that in some of these texts there are judgments on these types of angels,
Mm-hmm.
but there are no judgments for these angels, actually.
Okay.
There is no, they are not bad because they decided to mingle with a human female or something, like both parties were consenting in this case.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like an agreement. And also this seeded angelic DNA amongst the humans of the earth. So it was very beneficial. And the angels in this time, they took they took on physical forms that they manifested with their consciousness. And some of them did intermingle in this way. But the thing about the serpent was after a lot of us left on our holiday, because it was a very beautiful time, and we used this like a holiday sort of a thing,
Mm-hmm.
because it was very, very peaceful on the earth at this time. So we didn't use it. We were very happy here. We were very peaceful on the earth at this time. So we were singing and loving and dancing and having such a good time. And then after some of us left, after I left anyway, I seem to be not there when it all goes to shit usually.
Mm-hmm.
I like to go away before that point. But at this time, after this, there was the meteor, and the meteor was, well, devastating to that particular place. It did change the climate somewhat and made it colder, but also because it was very, very warm and the earth was very fruitful at this time,
Mm-hmm.
but also on this meteor. So it was talked about in some of the Dolores books that there was a bacteria or a fear virus that came on this meteor.
Mm-hmm.
However, there was a being that came on this meteor that I guess the people back then were not ready for knowing, because some of this in these sessions is time sensitive release information.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot know it until a certain point has been reached. So they called it a fear virus back then, but I am going to give this a name there was a being that came in and infiltrated the earth at this time. And that being, its name was Apep.
Okay.
So, do you know in the Egyptian tradition, they have this being which Ra, the sun god, is fighting every day and night.
Mm-hmm.
This snake. It is the snake that is said to be cause of chaos and whatnot. This is the same being that we are referring to.
Okay.
So it was this being that came in that is the reference to the serpent in that time, in that book.
Mm-hmm.
So it was this being known as Apep.
And what did he do? What did he?
This was the introduction of the fear virus.
Okay.
So this being introduced the next level of, I guess, fear to the, it introduced something that was not meant to be there,
Mm-hmm.
that was not planned for beforehand. It was a very, very negative energy, a very negative energy that then started to have impact on the people. So at this point, I guess in the books, the holy books or whatnot, this
Mm-hmm.
is where you get the fall of the human
Yeah.
around about this point because of this serpent being.
Mm-hmm.
And I only say serpent because that is the shape that it often takes on.
Is it a reptilian or why does it take in that shape?
I am seeing that it is even more ancient than a reptilian race. This is a very ancient being, and it has been around since before this universe.
Mm-hmm.
It came from a different universe, this being. It was a negative influence from another universe. Sometimes these things slip through.
Which universe?
Without getting into too much of this information,
Mm-hmm.
because some of it is forbidden.
Okay.
It was a universe that was more on the fringe. I'm just seeing the universes are like bubbles,
Mm-hmm.
and there is one that is more on the outside, but this universe moved close to this universe, and this being found a way through a portal or an opening
Mm-hmm.
when our universe and that universe intersected each other, and it came through, and then it found its way into the earth via this comet. It's very, very sneaky, and it's like a parasite, this being. You know how you might go into the woods one day and you don't know it, but you have a tick on you, a blood-sucking tick,
Mm-hmm.
and it can be on your head for a very long time before you even realize that it's there, and then you are in trouble. This is what this being was. It was like a parasite.
So nobody saw it come in until later on?
No, nobody saw it until later on. Of course, they felt that something was different,
Mm-hmm.
but it was very subtle in its ways. So this would be considered a reptilian being in a sense, but more of a serpent-like type of being. The serpents are older than the reptilians.
Okay. Now, is there a such person or a person that lived that's by the name of Lilith?
This is a demonic entity.
Mm,
This is one that I guess it's where it came from is shrouded, and there was some falsehood inserted about this one. But it is like it is, what would I say, like I would consider it to be what you would call like the queen of succubus type of entities,
mm,
succubus and incubus entities. So entities that prey on the sexual creation, creative center of
mm,
human beings and other beings.
mm-hmm,
So those things are actually real, but that is what they call them. They are beings that well, they feed from this particular instance, from the creation point.
mm-hmm,
They feed from other beingness's creation point. So this was like their leader in a sense, this being.
mm-hmm. There's people that say that it was Adam, you know, the story with Adam and Eve, that it was Adam's first wife.
Yes, well, that is actually not true, that story, because
Mhm,
Adam and Eve were not real. This was just a metaphor for how Earth fell from, how would I say it? Like the serpent was upheaved, and that is real,
mhm,
and the fall was real,
yeah.
and the paradise beforehand was real, and the angels that came and intermingled were real. But the story with the talking snake and the two people is not real. This is just like a way of presenting the information
Mhm,
so it doesn't get lost or censored in a way. But a lot of silly stuff was also put into this. Lots of silly stuff. So the original story, how it was originally, was the thing that I just told you.
mhm. Apex.
And then the Lilith, this
Mhm,
being was not, it did not come at this time.
okay.
It came in Atlantis times.
Mhm.
It did not come at this paradise point. It was only a pep that came during this time.
Was it summoned or did it go through a portal? Or?
Actually, it's interesting that you say this because this Lilith being,
Mm,
it was like Yes, it was like what you said. It was summoned by the Dark Brotherhood
Oh, okay.
of Atlantis,
Mm-hmm.
this secret society. And so this being came in, and then it began to see the sexual dysfunction among the people of Atlantis. So they began to do things that were dysfunctional in their creation center. And they were having, and the Dark Brotherhood also, it was very exciting for them to bring this being in. They wanted to experiment with it, to have sex with these types of beings and entities.
Mm-hmm.
They actually went so far to have sex with demonic beings.
Okay.
So this was something that they practiced.
Mm-hmm. Would it be done like on a meditation sort of
Yes, you can do so by removing the astral body from the physical body.
mm-hmm.
In this time, there are people who do so, who practice this.
Okay.
I'm just seeing that, yes, this was something that my imposter, Astaroth,
Mm-hmm.
what he was doing was he was having sex with people in this way.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes these beings are also feeding on the sexual point, like during the dreams of people.
Mm. Because I know that there's people that say that they have sex with aliens to produce. Is that even?
This is kind of different things. So if they were part of a program, if their higher self agreed to be part of, for example, saving the grays or something,
Mm-hmm.
then they would provide their eggs or sperm for the race. But typically, um, the gray beings would harvest this from them with permission from their higher self
Mm-hmm.
or their soul contract. There are certain contracted beings that, became human, and a part of their contract, they decided that they were going to provide this material to save this race.
Okay.
So in that instance, but there is no physical sex with gray beings. That is, they would not do that because they do not have reproductive capabilities.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these extraterrestrials do not have reproductive capabilities, so it would be pointless for them to have sex with a human, for example. But some extraterrestrials, well, not some, but there are a percentage that have gotten rid of their reproductive capabilities, and
Mm-hmm.
the Elohim do not necessarily agree with this at the higher levels. But because we can see that it is actually very important for the creation center, and they come to regret this later on. So there are beings that are asexual, and they would not be having sex with humans. And for example, the Pleiadians, they have sexual reproduction. They have not gotten rid of it. However, they would it would be pointless for them to have physical sex with a human at this point, because humans are too low in their vibrational center, in
Mhm.
their lower centers, for them to be able to do this without being harmed themselves with their energy bodies.
Okay.
So if you have a very high vibrational, I guess, energy body, and then you decide to have sex with someone who is a lot lower than you, this can be detrimental for you. So they would refrain from doing this until humans can raise their vibration significantly, and
Mm.
also to heal their sexual and creation traumas. So it does not necessarily have to be that you have to have sex to heal these traumas, but you still have to have, well, things working in these lower centers. For example, this is a sexual but fear point, and a creative but sexual point. These are lower to the red and the orange. So if
Mhm.
you do not have this, I guess, properly fixed, then you cannot have, Pleiadian beings do not want to participate in this.
Fair enough. And do they have soulmates like the Elohim or?
Yes, 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 very much so. Very much so. Because Apollo, he has visited the Pleiadians many times before,
Mhm.
and he assists them. And yes, he does tell me sometimes about, or my lower self, about what they do. And sometimes, some of the Pleiadian women, they do fancy him, but
Mhm.
he is very committed at the time to helping with the Earth mission, and he does not want to just, screw around.
Mhm.
And I would not like this if he screwed around, for example, while we are very busy with our mission.
Mhm.
This would not be appropriate for him.
So you would not give your consent.
No, 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 I don't consent to this. He is laughing. He he said to me, well, you better not think about, Pleiadian men in that sense too, how nice they are with the long hair, because he was making fun of me. He was making fun of me for this.
Mhm.
Well, we are just agreeing to not do this for the moment. We are very focused to each other at this time.
Fair enough.
Although Toki is very naughty and sometimes he wanted my attention.
Is he Palladian or?
No, no, no. He was Syrian being
Very
tough.
nice.
Yes, yes. He was a Syrian hybrid being, and then he became like he ascended to angelhood. So
Oh, yes, yeah. Okay.
he's he is amongst us now, but he was being naughty sometimes with me.
Mhm.
But that's okay. As long as we are stick to the mission, then it's okay.
So, if the fears keeping humanity from moving forward with the evolution, if the fears with integrated and didn't pose problems anymore, how would humanity see the world, would you think?
Completely differently.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if humanity knew how distorted their vision was in regards to this, they would they would regret so much. They would think to themselves, so why did I not continue my life or begin my life in this sense? It is like they have, when you get to a certain point past when you are a child, a lot of the times it occurs around 8 years old, and then humans begin to shut themselves out of this. Um, they shut themselves off from source more so. So that is why I have said that the children, when they come, they are very bright.
Mm-hmm.
When it is around 8 years old, we have observed time and time again this pattern where the child has something happen, or the programming starts to, from their families or society around them, or the television or their friends or wherever it comes from. This programming, which is, I guess, a dark agenda in a
Mm-hmm.
sense, it begins to shut them off from source energy. It begins to close the lid so that they, like, if you can imagine, for example, a jar that is open, or like not a jar, but more like a pipe. Okay, you imagine a pipe, and
Mm-hmm.
the energy from God is flowing down this pipe. And when you are born, this pipe is very proficient. And as you get older, there is some things that start to clog the pipe until, sometimes the pipe is very much clogged except for a tiny bit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how you get a lot of most of the dysfunction, or all of the dysfunction in the earth can be traced to this type of, well, dysfunction within the people. Dysfunction within people is because of this type of thing that occurs. And when they do the satanic ritual abuse, they close this pipe even further. They close it with the bloodline families,
Mm-hmm.
the children in these families that have to grow up and to be bad people themselves. They need to close this pipe very, very early on. So, usually the majority of the population, the pipe to source is closed, is start to close more around the age of 8. But with the satanic families, they close this pipe very, very early on. When the child is still an infant, they close off the light in this being.
How do they do that?
Well, it is not something that is pleasant. It is not something that you want to hear about.
Mm.
They abuse the child in various ways, and
Sexually
sexually
or
abuse.
mentally?
Yes, yes, sexually, mentally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they make the mother torture the child, so this connection to the mother is severed.
Mm-hmm.
So they have, like, the mother, the connection to the mother in the children of the earth is very, very important, and in the universe itself. So
Mm-hmm.
if you pinch this off at a very young age, then it is going to have so many problems. So they usually get the parents to participate in the torture of the child.
Mm-hmm.
And this is how the God light is pinched off the child. And then the child grows up and becomes dysfunctional. sometimes they have a breakthrough moment and decide to walk away from this. But in the past, they seldom had a breakthrough moment and then survived because often, when that pipe from God comes back on and this person receives all of the information again and they decide to follow their conscience, and this is a threat to their system because this person could expose them. So when they get out of this court, they are killed very quickly or threatened. They're threatened very quickly and then often killed.
So there's a lot of families that stay in power by doing this to the children.
Yes, yes, they create monsters in a sense out of their own families by pinching off the God light at a very young age so that the being completely forgets who it is, and it's very sad for them. But this is also part of their contract as well. So it's not something that an onlooker can easily understand for, I guess, for that being's evolution.
So they obviously they'll have their guides and team there assisting them.
Yes, yes. In many cases, though, in this situation, like this is sad for me to talk about, but they actually make like a barrier using dark magic, so these beings can't help them as much. So yes, they make a barrier around the child as well, and install, instead of good ones, they install demonic personalities into them, and have like dark guides instead, and they install this in the person using techniques such as the MK Ultra.
So they start this as a when they're young.
Yes, it has to be started when they are very young, this process. Otherwise, it doesn't work as well for them. They have too many they have too many breakthroughs, or they are not as easily controlled. But they have been trying to force this onto the general population as well, hence the pinching of the God source in the general population happening at an earlier age than before. But however, raising the vibration is stopping this, is stopping the pinch off in the children, the pinching off of God's source. And many light codes are being beamed from the sun to give people breakthroughs so that they can remove the crap from their pipe to God's source and begin the process again to let this energy through.
Well, that's good. Is there any assistance that we can provide for these people to open up the energy source?
Yes, yes, yes. I am just communicating with Helios, the soul of our sun, to provide an activation for this, because I communicate to the sun beings, we all do, Elohim, The Elohim helps to program the light. And this is what I do in particular. So I'm giving instructions to him. I'm giving instructions to him right now to help more with this process of clearing away the pole in the center of the body so that it's not so pinched off, and that the children that are coming in, they are remaining as they are with their connection, and that the people who have closed this connection off, I want the light codes to begin to remove some of these layers from them. So my beingness is communicating with the sun as I am doing this.
Thank you for that. We appreciate it. With the children that get this programming, is there demonic entities that are allowed in their bodies?
Well, it is not like they are allowed necessarily, but I guess there is attachments. They have attachments to them. You know that with the spirit attachments, they have insert attachments that are demonic into the entity or into the child's field. They insert attachments onto this, and this creates well, it's like this split personality of this being using this technique, and then they attach the demonic beings to the different aspects of this being's split personality. So in a sense, they are creating multiple personality disorder with different demonic beings attached to the different personalities of this being, this child. So this is what MK Ultra is designed to do.
To introduce attachments and
Yes, well, scientifically speaking, they would say that it is splitting the personality and making it so that different personalities can appear at different times to perform certain tasks which would be beneficial to how the dark occult operates. So you have some children that have altars, for example, as a prostitute, and then they have another altar who is like a scholarly one that is very intelligent. And then they have another personality that is like a soldier. And each one of these personalities, in the process, they attach these entities onto these personalities. It is quite a horrible process. And the personality is split using trauma-based mind control.
Is that visual or is that?
So they use different methods to do this, and they are not very nice. So it's torture usually to the child, and use of substances to make it compliant.
Is this what they call the alter ego as well with singers?
Well, yes, these celebrities have had this done to them in a sense. they create another identity for these celebrities. And these celebrities are often brought up in this system, or have to do certain things and have to have their personality split if they get famous enough in this sense. They have to be controlled. But, this is becoming a thing of the past because all of this is being exposed.
So when they perform, it's their alter egos performing instead of them, like they get taken over by something else.
Yes, unfortunately, in some cases, I am seeing that these celebrities were taken over by their personality that had a demonic attachment attached to that personality. And so I have to mention the Travis Scott concert in this instance was part of this, where there was some people who died in the crowd, and this was like a ceremony, and he did not feel anything towards the people who had died in the crowd because, of course, his alter ego had taken over him at that point. And it was like very, very creepy. This is why my lower self has never been attracted to going to these big concerts. I have never been attracted to going to this sort of thing, where my lower self deep down knew that it was not right. A lot of these big singers. So she never listened to this music. She chose her own kind of music. But typically, there would be many attachments feeding on people at these big events, and much dysfunction happening. If you had eyes to see, it would be quite disgusting to go to these big pop stars concerts.
Is that why they make them look so it almost feels like it looks like a cult sort of thing, like with the lights and different things that they put on the background.
Yes, this is an example of the dark ones infiltrating everything. So they have been far more open with this type of thing, far more open recently with this, and some of these celebrities have not got the memo yet that this, I guess, demonic sort of time is up. The time is up for this type of thing. So we are just seeing the last dregs of it before people become very aware to what has been going on.
What was the dream that your lower self had with the whales about?
The whales were performing an activation on me, on this part of my soul, because there are changes coming. There are more changes coming in my life, big changes, and there are changes on the horizon for humanity as well. So I'm just seeing that they were installing a new type of, I don't know what to say. They were installing new software into my lower beingness. I don't know how to say this otherwise, like software or downloads, or they were installing this into my lower beingness. And so I can prepare for what happens next in my life. And also, they want to give an activation for everyone, the whale kingdom.
Beautiful, thank you. I appreciate that.
My beingness as Elizabeth is on the same level as the whales at this time. So I can connect to them more easily, or very easily, I guess, compared to other people. I guess they are the same vibrational frequency as me with my lower self at the moment. And there are higher aspects of myself. Of course, the highest aspect is in the 12th dimension, but I am existing in all dimensions. But my lower self's beingness sometimes gets more lonely with I guess the humans on the earth. They were not at the same level for some time, except some other star seeds and whatnot. So I was traveling and going to the whales in my sleep, and I didn't realize it. This is the first time my lower self will be realizing it, that many times when I was growing up and a child, I was traveling, astral traveling, but the conscious mind did not remember. I was traveling and being amongst the whales while I was sleeping and just being with them. And so they remember me in this sense. They were two whales that they have been friends with me for some time. And they did an activation to me. And these whales have been friends with me since I was smaller, maybe since I was a teenager. These whales have been friends with me. And I traveled to them, and they did an activation and helped me. The whale song is like angel song. It's very beautiful and high vibration. It contains the essence of the universe. In a sense, it's like a song of creation. And they sing different songs, and this is how they communicate with each other.
Are the whales and the dolphins similar in what they represent, or they're totally different?
Well, the dolphins are very high vibrational as well, but the whales are like powerhouses energetically. They are even higher vibration than the dolphins. Their energy spans for much of the ocean. And if we didn't have whales here,
Mm.
we would not be on the same timeline that we are right now. The earth would already be destroyed if it were not for the whales.
Mhm.
So I encourage people to not eat whale meat or do any of this thing. I was very sad when I went to Japan and there was like some guys I dated and they were eating whale meat,
Mhm.
but it was very disgusting, almost like a cannibalism because these beings are so high vibrational.
Mhm. Do the whales have a message for us?
And they just have their songs. I would encourage people to listen to their songs. And this contains all of the activations that you need to hear.
Mhm.
The message is more of a profound one. They travel amongst the universe. They tell me they want people to know that while they are sleeping as well, and their beingness can be in many places
Mhm.
because they are very advanced souls. So often you can, if you have eyes to see, you can see them. You can see the whales traveling among the cosmos and visiting different planets. I'm just seeing the whales and they are moving around space and galaxies. And they are taking their songs around the universe and traveling with their gigantic astral forms. Or they can be in two places at the one time.
Mhm.
So they are taking their forms, their astral spirit forms, and I'm looking as they are traveling among the stars and singing songs about their love for creation. And so if people can remember how profound these beings are and reach out to them, they would be very, very happy. They want to reconnect with the humans of the earth, but
Mhm.
humans have forgotten themselves. And in doing so, they have forgotten their divine selves and have forgotten the whales. Because if we forget our divine self, the whales are saying, then we also forget the divine selves of the dolphins and the whales and the trees and the mountains. They want us to remember our divine selves.
Mhm.
And then when we remember our divine self, we can remember their divine selves. And we can stop killing them and cutting down the trees and doing these things that bring great pain to the earth. They
Mhm.
say it's all because humans have forgotten their divine selves, that they are a part of creation. So when you listen to the whale songs, this will remind you of this. This will remind you of the God spark that exists within every being, because the whales are expressing this with their song,
Mhm.
their own divine God spark. And I often go with the whales and sing with them. My beingness does this. It brings great peace to me.
Beautiful, thank you. Who was the Perseus, and what message does he have to give today?
Percy. I like Percy. And Percy, he came to show me something to my lower self while she was doing meditation.
Mm-hmm.
He came to show me not to fear, and he took my fear glasses off, how I was viewing the world, and he showed me how much more beautiful it is to remember, to look at the world with fresh new eyes. He is like a daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
He is not afraid of anything. Well, if he felt fear, he would do it anyway because it is exciting. It is exciting to try new things. And this is why he became an archangel in a sense. Because he was what should I say? He was very the way he viewed the world, or the way he viewed the universe
Mm-hmm.
was very profound. Like he does not fear anything. He just it is like he feels excitement from things that beings would find as being scary. He finds it exciting, and it's all about perspective. So he was sharing me his inner perspective that day. And for that, I thank him
Mm-hmm.
very much for popping up and coming to me.
Was he involved in a conflict against the reptilians in the past?
Yeah. When we came to Earth the last time,
Mm-hmm.
there was reptilian beings who were part of Seth's army, and he was part of this, of fighting this conflict. He was finding their nests and destroying them. He was in charge of particularly locating their nests or their little hidey holes
Mm-hmm.
of the dark ones. And in those days, there were many reptilians that were on the army of Seth.
Mm-hmm.
My sister in this lifetime, well, in that lifetime, she almost got killed by reptilian beings in the big battle. So there was reptilians in these conflicts, actual um, physical ones,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very, very frightening for people at the time. You had to be very, very brave to be a part of these conflicts, and that is why we were involved on such a large scale.
Mm-hmm. And where was it located that you had this conflict?
It was the Sinai
Mm-hmm.
in Libya,
Okay.
where the first lot of battles began around the Middle East up into Greece. So that is where the first battle began. But then the conflicts after this were just ratting out the holdouts, removing any remaining forces that were entrenched. So at this point, the main battle had already finished.
Mm-hmm.
So we were focusing at that point in time that Percy was targeting the reptilian strongholds. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of these were in Libya at the time, Libya and the Sinai. and in Egypt as well. So around like Africa area, like around, you can sort of say that it's around Egypt and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
The countries around this area. And I'm seeing there was some in India too, some conflicts, but the conflicts that I'm talking about in particular happened in the deserts of Africa at this time, the Libyan desert when it was there. And it was not so widespread as it is right now, but it was happening in that place at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And they had gone underground for a lot of this, so Percy had to locate where their underground locations were.
Mm-hmm.
And when he found this, then we began to smoke them out.
So were these deserts considered dangerous back in that time? Because they were
Yes,
yeah.
yes, the deserts were considered very dangerous to wander through,
Mm-hmm.
because there was these beings present who would hide within the sand. They had ways of hiding their, I guess, where they were underground and in the sand dunes. They could easily hide. Also in the jungles around Egypt at the time, because it was far more green. They were hiding around here as well. So they had some stakeouts in this area, and Percy was locating these places for the Elohim. He was scouting out where they were hiding.
Were the legendary Gorgons from Greek mythology actually reptilians?
Yes, yes. This is actually from this time. This is what they called them. However, as things went on, the
Mm-hmm.
stories became more and more confused around these beings. But yes, they were reptilian beings completely. My lower self decided to research Percy after he appeared in the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad she did, because this is very much the sort of thing that he was involved with that I wanted to talk about today,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to the reptilian and infiltration on Earth.
What did you want us to know about that?
Well, a lot of it is cleared out actually.
Mm-hmm.
The Pleiadian beings working with Apollo have cleared away a lot of their hidey holes, and
Mm-hmm.
also factions of the military, the human military, have cleaned out some of their hidey holes. But without galactic cooperation, once again, the humans would not be able to get rid of this. So it is like the cycles are returning back to that point. We had to collaborate with the humans back then
Mm-hmm.
to dig out their hidey holes and to stop the infestation, I guess. It seems crude to refer to these beings as an infestation, but that's essentially what it is. I was actually a reptilian being at one point. I sent a very small part of my soul into that very, very long ago before any of that happened, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And to see light into the reptilian civilization. But so I have the benefit of knowing how it feels to be these beings.
Mm-hmm.
However, in this case, it is still very much like an infestation
And what did
because
they look
they
like?
are, what do they look like?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you would imagine like some of them have flatter faces than others. Like at this time they have evolved to like a much flatter face. But when I was a reptilian back then, I still had somewhat of a snout. They didn't it wasn't so flat, the face. It has become flat, but it looks like a reptile man.
Mm-hmm.
But let me see, there are ridges on the head. There are ridges and they have still a little snout. It's a small snout, it's still there, but able to rip and tear flesh, so you have to be careful, even with its smaller snout. They were much more vicious when I was a reptilian. They were even more aggressive in a sense, where they were more evolved in the teeth back then for ripping and tearing and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Now they have like their snouts are smaller, so it isn't, and they are slightly smaller than they used to be as well. And this has greatly upset them. This has greatly upset them, this evolutionary path some of them are going. And because they are becoming weaker in a sense than what they were. I know it sounds strange, but the light has been moving into their DNA
Mm-hmm.
and changing them in this way. So, like, it always finds a way. It always finds a way to I guess, all of these beings need to be brought into alignment with the larger cycles. And eventually, the reptilian beings can be completely friendly one day.
Mm-hmm.
But that will be a long time. But they used to be a lot more vicious in the past. It is as surprising as that sounds.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So was
So they
Medusa.
actually, oh, sorry. I'm just going to describe them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So they have less of a tail nowadays, and sometimes some breeds of them don't have a tail at all.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was a reptilian, I had a tail, and it's the ones with tails, I guess, are more of the original kind.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
And they have long nails, do they, to dig underneath the ground?
I'm seeing they have 3 fingers,
Mm-hmm.
and they have tried to breed the old stock of reptilians back into the bloodline, but they are having difficulty with this
Mm-hmm.
to make them more vicious once more. It's like their plans are failing, but they are not as vicious as they used to be. Well, not yes, they are not as it's not that they are not as vicious, but they are not as dangerous as they used to be. They used to be a lot more powerful and bigger bodies
Mm-hmm.
and sharp teeth and very much more reptile. So Or what was the other question that you were going to say?
I was gonna ask, was Medusa a reptilian being also?
Yes, she was a reptilian queen. They got this one a bit wrong in the myth, and she did not have snakes for hair. However, she had transforming abilities. So maybe this is where they get this type of information.
Mm.
Like while she was shape-shifting abilities. So it might have been the case that they saw that it looked like she had snakes for hair. Maybe she was in the middle of transforming into a human, for example. And so, people got a shock and was like, there's a lady with snakes for hair, but it just looked like, a reptilian being with, a human face. So this type of thing. So she could shape shift. This is where we get this sort of information from.
Mm-hmm.
She was very much like Seth's wife in a sense, and she was on the Dark Ones at that time. She was part of the Dark Ones. However, in terms of now, her soul is actually turned around for the better. And she is, assisting the earth in a sense, which might be surprising because, Percy had to get rid of her the first time.
Mm-hmm.
She was being very problematic the first time. And Percy had to, Perseus, I just call him Percy because
Okay.
he liked to be called Percy
Mm-hmm.
as well. He liked to be called Percy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite funny because, he got this sense from the humans as well. He liked them to call him nickname, for example. But yes, he got rid of this being, and he got rid of her army as well. She had some beings working under her, and they were like kind of seeing that it's not like the myth at all, actually. They were trafficking supplies to other sort of dark ones, or what you would call dark ones. They were in the process of they were getting supplies from outside of the solar system at this point.
Mm-hmm. What kind of
And
support?
we cut them off.
Mm-hmm.
They were getting some weapons and stuff like this
Okay.
to fight these wars against the Elohim beings and the benevolent extraterrestrials that were on Earth at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So they were getting some supplies, then we cut them off. And then once they had all of these supplies, they were sort of ferrying these around to each other. And Medusa was in charge of this. She was like kingpin, what you would call a kingpin of these operations.
Mm-hmm.
Like moving these things around and having armies and whatnot and whatnot, and moving soldiers around to different areas, and still trying to continue on with what Seth was doing, even though Seth was dead. They still thought that they could have control.
Mm-hmm.
They still thought that they could save the situation. Eventually, they were actually trapped on Earth at this time. There was a quarantine placed around, so they were like, well, we may as well just fight to the death. So this was, they couldn't go away. They couldn't escape Earth. They were just there.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought that, instead of just surrendering, that they would, continue it and go underground. And this is where Percy had to find a lot of their underground lairs.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these tunnels were constructed during this time by these beings to bury materials and soldiers and supplies. They did go underground,
Mm-hmm.
and it was to hide from us because it was an invasion of Earth by the Dark Ones, and this was not part of the plan for the Earth, in a sense, like to do with the soul contract of the Earth. This was in a sense, like in a much higher sense, it like everything was as it is meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was like something had happened here that was very unpleasant. So it had to be dealt with in this invasion of Earth.
Are we allowed to ask what happened or not?
Oh, well, it was the Dark Ones with Atlantis and whatnot. And, Seth actually brought the reptilians here.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted them to come. So he set up, and, and the reptilian beings, there were some good ones that were here beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
However, the ones that he was calling in, they were no good. They were not on the good side, for example. But there were other beings in Atlantis that called them in. So they came in at this time as well. There were some beings in the Dark Brotherhood that were trying to have a connection with them, very much so. There were humans that wanted to call them in.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, then you had Set and those beings that came out of the portal,
Mm-hmm.
fallen angel type and demonic type of entities. And then they called more of these in. So it was like a collaboration between the Dark Brotherhood of Atlantis and to the beings that came out of this portal for this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
For them to start to come in and set things up.
Okay. Did the Elohim and light forces at the time destroy a lot of the reptilians on Earth?
Yep, we had to hit their nests and infiltrate them as well. They were burying underground or in the sand dunes or in the rainforest and whatnot, or jungle, various places, and in the caves as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was where they started to create some of their tunnels and bury down.
Did some of them?
But yes, some of them did not come out and fight so much. Some of them decided to bury down much, much, much deeper.
Mm-hmm.
And then the ones who were more warlike, I guess, came up to the surface and wanted to fight. They wanted to defend their territory, and they didn't want to go further into the tunnels. And the ones that went into the tunnels, there was a couple of them, but they had some things set up, and they didn't get all of them. Elohim didn't get all of the reptilian beings, just most of them. Some of them were still left in there. And then they continued as the ones that, the tunnels and whatnot that you know today.
So there's some still underground.
Yes, yes. Well, it continued until this day and age. These beings being deep underground, they're buried underground from this time because they couldn't go anywhere. Their way out was blocked, so they buried in deep, 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 deep into the earth crust. Not the molten part, but the earth is how would I say, the brown bit of the crust, the dirt bit, goes down further than people think in some areas of the earth. There is very much underground areas, like for example, the reptilians are very, very deep down. Some of them are very, very, very deep, and these were the ones that buried down at that time. So those tunnels have been there since that time. But of course, there have been incidences where they are building tunnels in the modern age or deep underground military bases, and they run into these old tunnels that they made during this time. Usually it is quite surprising for them to find this.
Yeah.
And of course, there's ones under Egypt as well, and these ones contain the Kalu people that went underground at that time.
How have the reptilians delayed humanity's progress?
Oh well, quite a bit actually. In the case of the modern age, I would say that just because of their vibration has been like made everything very much more down, and especially in the modern age, there has been more contact with these beings by government agencies that would seek to, and the Nazis and so forth. There has been contact with them. So, it's not very good. And a lot of the time, you do have physical reptilians on Earth, but the higher physical forms. So they are like sometimes it's like people can't necessarily see them with their physical eyes, but we are moving up to the point where we will be able to see more things. And this is like it's sad because the reptilians were actually higher in a dimensional sense than the humans. The humans really, really sunk. So I'm seeing that there are some reptilians that are actually, you would be able to see them, for example, if you were more higher vibrational in the body, in the physical form, which is it's strange for people to think of, but this is actually like the extent of the programming on humanity, that
Mhm.
they cannot see these beings for what they are. They cannot
And on
see,
purpose.
for example, things on the astral realm and so forth. And a lot of people have become so dense that they cannot even see, like, well, dark entities, for example.
Mhm.
They see the furniture move, but they do not see the poltergeist that moved the furniture.
Mhm.
Mm, this type of thing. A
And
lot of these reptilian beings, well, some of them would be considered like poltergeist type of things in some situations. Some of those beings or those types of beings have just been around on Earth for so long that they've forgotten who they are, in a sense. And they are just like what people would refer to as evil spirits. And then some of them are certainly more physical.
mhm.
But there are some reptilian souls that are trapped, and that one is the one that I would be referring to. The ones that are trapped on the, not trapped, they can go, but they have forgotten who they are for so long that they just died at some point and forgot that they were a reptilian being. And so you would see these ones as the sort of ones that people would call evil spirits or something.
Mhm. And are they getting cleared out at some point, or would they have to?
Yes, a lot of the astral ones have been cleared out, but the physical ones in the Earth's crust, they are that is something that is in progress. It's very, very much cleared out actually.
Oh, that's good. What other things have slowed humanity down and kept it trapped?
And like I was talking before with the programming and pinching off the source energy that comes through the head of the body.
Mhm.
It's like you have a pole in the middle of your body in
Mhm.
which the source energy comes through. And I explained that this is known as the prana pole.
Yeah.
I believe it has other names, but this starts to get pinched off at the age of 8 years old. And this is because of the various programming that people have. And this programming is, I guess, like it is part of the consciousness of humanity, but also it's becoming part of the family programs and also a lot of the social media and things that you watch has little bits of this programming in you, like inside it. So you need to, I guess, be careful of what you are showing to children,
Mhm.
what sort of movies and whatnot that they are watching, because everything has a little bit of programming in it, but some things are more harmful than others.
Is the kids that used to be on the Mickey Mouse Club, like I think Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake,
Mm.
they succumb to some of this programming?
Oh, not just programming. These children were abused.
Um,
Yes, they were MK altered. They had different personalities, and a lot of the children on these shows, they had prostitute personalities so that they could give some yucky people in positions of power pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
It was like these type of shows, unfortunately, if you get high up enough in the food chain of these types of rich people, the ultra wealthy, these types of kids shows are kind of like a smorgasbord of what's on offer.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the child stars that go onto these shows are like an advertisement for these people. And then they come in and then they ask for, they pay for the child.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very sad. Yes, it's like, and some children's modeling is like this as well. There are sneaky, very sneaky ways that they advertise the children to buyers who want to purchase the children. And sometimes TV shows are part of this.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the child actors, and it's basically like free game for them. It's like a buffet of children for them to feast on.
Mm-hmm. And obviously the
Ye-
parents get paid. And
Yes, well, sometimes the parents are heavily involved with this actually,
oh, okay.
and it's very, very sad. And the parents are, well, I guess, part of this system and the pimping out their children. And also, so another one that comes to mind, do you know trying to think the TV show that had Mary-Kate and Ashley on it? Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen.
Mm-hmm.
I believe this was called Full House.
Mm-hmm.
And this was another one for these people to buy. So these unfortunately these celebrities, Mary-Kate and Ashley, these twins, they were very much trafficked, and it's very, very sad.
Is that why they have breakdowns when they come into a certain age? Is that part of the...
Yes, it's part of their programming is breaking. Sometimes this happens, and then they are sent to rehabilitation centers to be reprogrammed, and
Mm-hmm.
then they are released to the public again. And sometimes, they have paparazzi that speaks a certain word to them in order for them to fulfill like a mission that they have been provided to do. Like one of their altars
Mm-hmm.
provided a mission. Like for example, if they had to do something or seduce someone, for example, there would be a paparazzi or somebody in the crowd who would come up and whisper a word to them,
Okay.
and then the word would set off the keyword to become the altar, to have the altar personality. And then this personality, it doesn't remember what the other personalities have done. So there is very good plausible deniability for certain things that have happened in history.
Mm-hmm. And that's so that's something so are the paparazzi involved in this as well? Like some of them are heavily
Yes,
involved?
yes, some of them are. some of them have, well, they have joined the club, and so they are like handlers, some of these paparazzi, in a sense, for these celebrities. Like, it may not seem like that is the case, but they take a picture of them and then whisper or yell out a word, and and nobody really pays attention to this.
Mm-hmm.
And then the word activates the celebrity, and then they go in, they go into the mode where they want them to be controlled.
Mm-hmm. And like celebrities like Katy Perry, like she's I think you said that she's fallen. I don't know, there was like she's been recorded twitching, or it seems like she's malfunctioned like a robot in some
Yeah.
concerts. Is that them trying to break free, or what's going on there?
Yes. Sometimes it's the programming breaking free, but I don't know how to say this other than some of these people are actually they are actually not the person that you think that they are. They are a copy using their DNA, be called clones.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, some of these clones, they do malfunction because they have been sped up in their aging process.
Mm-hmm.
And so some some of these instances are things that are scripted for them to do, and some of these instances are not even them. So it's very, very alarming, the level of deception that is happening. There are many, many layers to it. And before people say, well, clones, that's just very ridiculous. You
Mm-hmm.
have to remember that they were cloning animals, you know, and they came out with this some time ago. They
Mm-hmm.
came out with this to the public, and then they said, oh, but it would be too unethical to do this to humans. That is actually rubbish. That is just something that they say to cover their butts. Of course, they were doing it to humans. Of course, they were doing it all along. And they were cloning humans, various ones, usually celebrities and politicians, and so forth, or secret agents and spies as well.
Mm-hmm. So do they provide their DNA for cloning, or did they get the original one gets disposed of?
The original one is kept like the original person, but there can be an original, and then there can be some people who are public figures have many of these things, floating around.
Mm-hmm. How do they keep track of all of them?
They have tracking devices in them,
Okay.
so like a microchip in their skin,
Mm-hmm.
and also they have chips in their brain,
Mm-hmm.
especially in modern times. When they first came out with this, they didn't have so many chips
Mm-hmm.
in different parts of their bodies, but now all of these clones are very much chipped in the different parts of their brains, so they can, like those scientific experiments where they put the chip in the brain of the monkey, and then they get the monkey to do some things. So if the clone is malfunctioning, let's just say, then the chip that is inserted is activated, and then they make their way back to the cloning sort of, or the facility that they need to be at. It's very, 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 very deceptive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, thanks for that information. Now, would we be able to release, heal around fears and the traps and restrictions that your lower self has for herself?
Yes, yes. Percy has helped me with this the other day, but I am just getting him to. Well, actually, I'll get myself,
Mm-hmm.
I'll get the highest aspect of myself to release this today.
Mm-hmm.
The highest, well, helping the 12th dimensional aspect of myself, because there are many aspects of me,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to remember this. There are so many aspects of me in all dimensions. So I'm getting the 12th dimensional aspect of myself to release this block today with the change and the fear and fear around change. And I'm just getting that aspect of myself. It's very, very hot in the body. Excuse me, because this energy is very, very, very potent. But I do want to integrate more of the aspects of myself into each other, in a sense, or to be aware of these aspects of me.
Mm-hmm. And is she, the changes that are coming, is she allowed to know what they are, or they'll reveal itself in due time?
Yes, but the highest aspect of myself knows everything that is happening in the universe and all of the things that will happen in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
She's it is only the lower aspects of myself that have veils of forgetfulness on them. Even the aspect that I am
Mm-hmm.
in this speaking in this body, of course, the highest aspect of myself, the one that is constantly with God, could not come straight into the body at
Mm-hmm.
this time because it would disintegrate the body
Mm-hmm.
completely. So it is like I still have some things that I can't talk about,
Okay.
and I still have some separation in this beingness.
Mm-hmm.
However, the highest aspect of myself, there is no separation from God, and I exist in all dimensions and levels.
Is that similar to everyone else on Earth, or is that different?
Um, there are some beings that only exist up to the 7th or the 5th dimension, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But, it just depends on the evolution level of the being. This is what I'm talking about with dimensional aspects.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you are more in touch with those higher dimensional aspects, it's like you push on even further. You push on up even further, and you can evolve. You can make your way up towards God, like the 12th dimensional level. Well, God is in everything is the thing.
Mm-hmm.
However, some beings like me exist even beyond the 12th dimension. I do not talk about what is beyond the 12, because not even my lower self is ready to know
Mm-hmm.
that yet. The vastness of my beingness would be quite shocking, and the other Elohim's beingness. It is quite shocking, but she does get glimpses of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the glimpses being that there was a universe inside me and inside Apollo, and all of these beings that evolve past a certain level. Let's just say that there is an awareness that there is a universe within them with
Mm-hmm.
planets and solar systems and galaxies and everything, like a complete universal system exists within them. And this is very mind-boggling. It's very mind-boggling to think about.
Well, thank you for that. Are we complete for the session? Have you released the fears around the change?
Yes, yes, I have released that, and my beingness is heating up somewhat due to the energy. And I am having ringing in the ears. I am connecting to these other aspects of myself
Mm-hmm. What is
more
the
and
meaning of the ringing of the ears?
it is a connection to these higher levels of information, and they struggle to come down to the physical.
Mm-hmm.
It is like when you are higher vibrational and higher density, you can receive all of this information at once, but here you perceive it as ringing in the ears. It's all about perception. In those higher levels, I could perceive this information as my beingness is on different planets, and I am doing various things right now, and I can see all of these different colors and the different shapes and the matrix of the universe, and receive all of this information at once,
Mm-hmm.
all of this different sort of information and knowledge about things all at once. I am just trying to get my lower self to remember how it is to live on the higher density, because many things can happen at once. For example, if you chose to be in the shoes of Archangel Michael, you would understand very quickly that he is in multiple places at once and having many experiences going to different places.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this information is coming and being fed within his beingness at once. And he can see colors, and he can see many things that you can't see. He can see the fabric of the universe, and he can help to change it and to bend it. And he has lots of, this is what you would call higher powers. This is something that Thoth became a master of when he was on the earth, accessing these higher powers in a lower dimensional body, or what it would be considered very high dimensional at this time, but or high dimensional. But however, he got even higher and higher because he accessed these higher components of himself and brought this down. He managed to bring this information down and remember what it's like to be in multiple places at once and to see all of these colors and to live on these higher dimensions. I am very much lifting up.
Mm-hmm. Is the physical body okay? Like, how is the physical body going?
Yes, Arcana is helping with this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying maybe you should turn it down a little. I was getting a little bit high.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's switching down a little. It's not as heated up right now. Sometimes I can get ahead of myself.
Mm-hmm.
And also Percy wanted to have a message for everyone here today.
Mm-hmm.
Perseus,
What did he want us to know?
that you will begin to see things that you have not begun to see for a very long time. And you do not need to be afraid of these things. This is simply the way it is on the higher dimensions.
What kind of?
So, sorry. You will begin to see. Already my friends are seeing these things. They are seeing fairies and my friends, my lower self's friends, fairies and spirits and various things that people will begin to see more and more. And as you remember the higher dimensions, do not be afraid of them. It's a wonderful adventure. And when you take off those glasses of fear that the lower dimensions had on you, everything is so much more beautiful and the colors are different. And it's like you will see the world as it's like a fraction of how it really is. Because, how you see it now is actually not how it is. You will begin to see more and more of how it really is. Some people will begin to see structures in the sky,
Mm-hmm.
cities and whatnot, cities, higher vibrational structures, cities of light existing on the higher dimensions. Some people will begin to see this. Some people will see higher vibrational UFOs that are there. And beings that walk among you that you do not know about until now. So he is just getting people to release the fear
Mm-hmm.
of what is coming. Release the fear so you can embrace these things and you can have these experiences. Because the world is very beautiful. It's not what you've been told.
Well, thank you for that. We do appreciate it.